Candidates for Congress. We have Dalia Al-Aqidi from CD3. Please welcome Dalia.
Thank you, Mary. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Well, I decided to run in the 5th District because I've seen the consequences of what Ilhan Omar is doing. Not only me, you have seen that. Al-Aqidi is a name came from Iraq. I was born in Baghdad. I've lived under the oppression of Saddam Hussein. So I truly understand the consequences of the type of policies that Ilhan Omar is doing. We all have division, hatred, violence. I moved to the United States in 1993. 5 years later, I got the citizenship. I moved here legally, by the way. And I took my oath seriously. At that day, I promised.
Just hold it like this.
I pledged to defend the United States, the laws and the Constitution against all enemies. And that's why I'm running against Ilhan Omar.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I've been a journalist for 36 years, so I've covered terrorist attacks and I've covered war zones all over the world. And I've worked from Washington, D.C. since '93 when I moved to the U.S. In 2018, I wanted to interview Ilhan Omar. She was the newly elected Muslim, hijabi, and. So I started asking her for interview and all my emails were sent back. So I decided in 2019, I said, to hell with her campaign, I'm going to Minnesota, I'm going to Minneapolis to talk to the people. And that's when I fell in love with the Twin Cities, and that's when I made my move. So thank you, Minnesota, for making me part of you. I want to say something about my campaign. The most important thing is our border. We have the worst border policies in the world. Yeah. Even third world countries, they protect and respect their borders except us. So I'm telling you, I am the immigrant, I am the Arab, I am the Muslim. I'm telling you, in Congress, I'll be so strong against the open border policies. It's okay to say no. We don't know who these people are. I've been working on radical Islamism movements and terrorism for the past 15 years. And recently I launched a nonprofit, the American Center for Counter-Extremism. So I know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that we have no idea how many terrorists from all over the world, they're already there. We see it on TV every day. We have people chanting, "Death to America." We have people chanting that we all Hamas. Little they know that Hamas is a terrorist group designated by the U.S. government. These are the consequences of what Ilhan Omar and the progressive movements and President Biden's policy is. Let me tell you one thing. 2 days ago, President Biden decided to bring Palestinians from Gaza as refugees. You know what? 70% of the people in Gaza approved of October 7th.
Probably more.
Do we want them here?
No.
How many people that committed crime since October 7th? How many supporters are committing crime on our college campuses? My friends, we know that we reached the point that for all of us cannot wait. We have to fight back. We have to start our own movement. And I'm one of you. And I'll lead you. But I need your help. I need your support in any way you could. Our district, the 5th district, became ground zero for anything and everything that is wrong in this country. We don't want to lose our country. So help me, please. Let's work together. Send me to the Congress and you won't regret it, because I will be the Muslim voice that loves America. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dalia. Very good. And our friend Tad Jude is here. He won the endorsement for Congressional District 3.
That was an exciting day. How many people were at our convention? Okay, thank you. That was 4 ballots. I don't know what took so long, but it's complicated business. But anyway, thank you for being here tonight. I want to thank Jackie. Jackie has a broken foot.
Oh, no.
But she's been an incredible help on the campaign trail. But the work has just begun. And this just happens to be a little map of the 3rd district. And it runs all the way from Anoka, Ramsey, Coon Rapids, all the way through western Hennepin County and southern Hennepin County. And it's an area that essentially has been a Republican stronghold for 60 years until Dean Phillips came along. And Dean Phillips, of course, will not be president. I hate to disappoint you, but he will not be president. But he's not running for re-election, so it's an open seat. And we are going to be in trench warfare for 6 months. And we're going to come out and turn this red. It is going to be red. Take a good look at it. And there are a couple of reasons it's going to be red. Number one, people are fed up that we don't have a border on the southern border. We're going to make illegal immigration illegal again. We're going to make crime illegal again. And we're going to take an out-of-control budget and get it under control again. Those are the 3 issues we're getting during the campaign, and people are with us. Now, we've got some problems. You know, one of the things that we're facing is a Democrat state senator who seems to be stuck on allowing an accused felon to vote over there. So we got to get that message out. That we've got somebody who is extremely partisan on the Democrat side. And they're having problems over at the state Senate, but we'll let them deal with that. It shows the character that we have, that we're running against. And secondly, we've got a messed up criminal justice system in Hennepin County.
Yeah.
And you look at that Ryan Lonergan case, they're hiring an outside counsel now. I have never heard of this. I have never in my life heard of this. When you're dealing with state law, you're dealing with Minnesota law, they went out to Washington, D.C. to hire a law firm to handle that case. And your property taxes are paying for it.
Unbelievable.
It makes no sense at all to me.
No.
I don't know what they understand about Minnesota law that Minnesota lawyers don't understand. I mean, I don't understand them going outside of Hennepin County. That's probably the largest law firm in the state of Minnesota, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. And they figured, well, we don't have enough people here to handle this case. So we're going to hire an outside counsel. But it's not a Minnesota lawyer. They went to Washington, D.C. And criminal justice should not be based on politics. It should be based on the facts, on the law, on the Constitution. And we just have this poor trooper out there, he's doing his job as he's trained to do. They won't give him the evidence against him. That's a constitutional right. You have to follow the Constitution. In any case, we've got problems. We're going to settle it. We're going to solve those problems, and we're going to turn the 3rd District red. It's going to be trench warfare between now and November. So thank you.
That's great. How many of you were here last month when we had a discussion? Do you remember John Anderson, the Elk River School Board member that spoke? John, stand and say hello. Where are you? Yeah, there you are. How are you doing, by the way? Are you surviving?
We're hanging in there.
Hanging in there? We still need support, right?
Right, yeah. I've been told that board members should not talk to their constituents. And I happen to say go pound stand.
You can always come here and talk to the constituents, okay? It's an open invitation to you.
Does she want to say, do you want to say a couple words in hello?
We have our friend Cece Davis here. Cece ran for CD5. Do you want to come up and say hello? All right. You all remember Cece?
This is exciting. I think we've all just, at this point, have just recognized because we have this, we're running in this blue muck, right? This Smurfville of a state at this point, that it just really comes down to one simple thing. We either want a country or we don't. Period. We either want a country or we don't, right? And I have a podcast. It's called The Savage Truth with Cicely Davis, and on there, I called it that because truth is so very important. And I think that we have an opportunity right now where we get to kind of say, ha ha ha, I told you so. Because after all the mayhem that we watched, particularly out of this state, because the lack of leadership from our mayor in Minneapolis, crybaby, and Walls, right? This is an I told you so moment. We all knew that this was going to happen. We are not surprised at the state of our country right now, but it just boils down to that. And what I love, what I'm seeing right now is that even though we have our differences, we recognize that that's what it's coming down to. We either want a country or we don't. Right? We've always known that boy means boy and girls means girls. We've never debated that. We've always known that masking people is eliminating Amlaw. These are not things that we have always been on the right side, right? So now we just decide that we are going to stand shoulder to shoulder. We're going to support all of our congressional candidates. We're going to support all those who are running locally. And we need to reach out to those, the heart of America, right, the American majority, which, by the way, is starting to recognize that they've been pushed way too far left, and we get our country back, right? And so that's the conversation you need to have. You don't have to get into the weeds anymore. We don't need to argue that they've been pushed so far. Uncommon sense is not working, right? They recognize that our country is in mayhem. You either want a country or you don't. What I like about that is it's so very simple. And so we're going to do what we're supposed to do. We're going to get out, we're going to vote, we're going to have the conversations that we need to have. We're going to turn our state red as much as we possibly can, right? We're going to get a Republican president across the finish line, and we're going to continue to fight for Minnesota bit by bit until we get back to looking like we did in this country in 1984 when 49 out of 50 states. Let's just not us be the one that's blue. And that's it. It's just that simple.
We need candidates in every seat, too.
Every seat.
There were 12 Republican seats that went empty last election. We need every seat filled at the congressional level and at the local level.
And the House.
And I will sit with this, but I think I'm going to end on that. It is un-American to leave any Democrat unopposed. Let's win in November.
Thank you. You and if anybody is interested, you know somebody that wants to run, there's a lot of Senate district chairs here tonight, so make sure you reach out to Adam and any of the others. They are still looking for House candidates. All right. Yeah, there it is. And before we move on, I want to do a call out too to Travis Ekbaum. Travis, you come every month. You put up this gorgeous 8-foot by 12-foot flag. He's here. He usually puts out the centerpieces. Thank you for your commitment. So, we're going to move on. We're so excited for our next speaker. Guess who it is?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they say, I don't know. Oh, my goodness. You don't read your emails, do you? He was almost our Attorney General in 2022. Will you please welcome Jim Schultz?
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. It's good to be with you. All good to be with to see Tad over here, who we ran against each other for Attorney General, and he eventually was magnanimous enough to endorse me as time went on and so forth. But Tad, it's really impressive what you did last weekend to get the CD3 endorsement. It was a competitive field. And we have the strongest candidate we could possibly have in CD3, and so we just have to get Tad across the line there in CD3. And Dalia as well in CD5, carrying the torch in a tough area in Minneapolis and surrounding suburbs. It's a tough seat. Ilhan Omar is it's absolutely outrageous that she's representing us in Congress there. We all know for so many different reasons that we got to throw our support behind Dalia as well. So I'm going to talk about a few things tonight. I'm going to tell you about the organization I've been building since my race, tell you a little bit about legislative stuff that's happening and some of the stuff we're doing to try to win the Minnesota House for in 2024 here. But before I get to that, Mary suggested I just kind of tell you guys a little bit about kind of my perspective of things post-22 election, running against Attorney General, or against Keith Ellison for Attorney General. So maybe I'll just pause on that for a few minutes and then pivot to some other things. But as you all know, in 2022, I narrowly lost Keith Ellison in the closest Attorney General's race in Minnesota history. I lost by 0.7%. All the polling in the race going into election night had us up by 6 or 8 points, and so it was really painful, not to quite get there. I'm very proud of what we did accomplish. We got more votes than any Republican state candidate in Minnesota history. We won 5 of our 8 congressional districts. We won decisive majorities of House and Senate districts throughout the state. We got the highest percentage of the vote since anyone on the Republican side since 1994. So really, I'm proud of what we did accomplish. And I think it shows that Minnesota isn't this deep blue state. We're certainly getting deep blue policies throughout the state, and we all know, we've all seen them. But the fact is, Minnesota is narrowly divided as a state. I got 49.6% of the vote. That tells you that Minnesota is a state that we can turn around. It's really important. It's easy to get discouraged, and I will tell you, I was pretty depressed for quite a long time after my race. It's easy to get discouraged. But Minnesota, we can turn Minnesota around. We have to turn Minnesota around. There are 5.5 million people in this state who deserve better than the far left extreme policies that they're getting. The type of policies that are driving our economy to the ground, that are driving Minnesota Minnesotans out of the state. I'm a 5th generation Minnesotan, and I love this state, and we have to continue fighting for it. And I get those people that, maybe they've moved to South Dakota or Wisconsin or whatever. But what I would encourage you to do is to stay here, to double down, to work all the harder to help turn our state around, because it can be turned around, and 5.5 million people deserve it. So.
Great.
And so, I'll just say one more thing. Getting into when I got into the race for Attorney General, a lot of ways it didn't make sense for me personally. I was in a comfortable job, comfortable professional life, but I felt like I had to step forward because of all the events of 2020. The rioting, the fact that we had leaders, so-called leaders, including Keith Ellison, get behind defunding the police, get behind all these policies that have led to our streets burning, to having Minneapolis burning down, and so forth. And I think that's, if there's anything that you can take away is, we all got to step forward and make some sacrifices for our state. And I probably should have done it earlier myself, but we all have to step forward, and I know you guys in so many different ways do that. But let's continue doing that for the future of our state. after my race, I started talking with some business owners around the state, small business owners, medium-sized business owners, and others, about really harnessing the voice of businesses, executives, regular people around the state who want to see change. And so we've been building an organization called the Minnesota Private Business Council. It's an organization of businesses, business leaders, and otherwise to advocate for the sensible things like not hiking our taxes every other month. Things like responsible policies around crime, supporting our police officers and otherwise. And we've had an incredible amount of success. We've now got members all around the state. We've been aggressively fighting out there for sensible policy in a lot of different areas. And so very proud of what we've built there. And going forward, we're going to be doing two things. On the one hand, advocating for sensible policy around various different issues. I've been writing a lot, about, I left a few op-eds back there. Surprisingly, the Star Tribune publishes me. I'm not sure why, but the Star Tribune publishes me, so I've been writing a lot of op-eds and things like that, speaking to folks, in the heart of the beast there. But I wrote an op-ed recently on the sanctuary state efforts that our state has had to try to make Minnesota a sanctuary state. Talked about the reckless spending. Last session, as you guys may remember, and Senator Koran knows this well, Democrats hiked spending by 40% statewide. Since 2010, our economy has grown by just 22%, but since then, we've hiked spending by 130%. And that's all you need to know. That math doesn't add up as time goes on, and Democrats are hell-bent on continuing to increase spending, increase taxes in our state. So with that, I'll kind of pivot to a little bit of a legislative update. One of the things we do is we keep really close tabs on everything legislatively in the state. We advocate against a lot of the crazy stuff that Democrats are doing. And so I'll give you a little bit of update on things at the legislature. Senator Koran, feel free to jump in. You're living it every day here as well. But a few different things. Number one, you may have seen this effort that to make Minnesota a sanctuary state. Have people seen this? Yep. So it's an extraordinarily reckless policy, and just to be very clear on what it is, the idea is that state officials will not cooperate with federal officials in the enforcement of our immigration laws.
Yeah.
And that's outrageous. And there's some states who have embraced this: New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, and they've seen the consequences of it. Billions of dollars of cost associated with that. Unsafe communities around their respective states. I think in just New York City alone, $2 billion have been spent caring for illegal immigrants in their state. So it's horrendous. These are resources that should be spent on American citizens, on citizens of those states, but instead they're going towards illegal immigrants. That's deeply wrong. And for all these people who talk about this as being the kind of compassionate policy and so forth, we really need to push back against that notion, because thousands of people have died as migrants coming across Central America on the way to this. And during this, there's human trafficking, there's drugs being exchanged, people dying that way. So it is not a compassionate thing to encourage illegal immigration. And we're doing it, via this proposed sanctuary state policy. It looks like it will die this year, but what the Democrats do is they fold something 1 year, and then it dies, and then they bring it back in a year or two later. And so we all have to keep our eyes up for that, but they definitely want to do that. And we're already doing other things to attract illegal immigrants to our state. College tuition for illegal immigrants, health insurance for illegal immigrants that were paid for by you, the taxpayers. So a lot of just extraordinarily hard left policies out there, and those are a few of them. Another one, you guys may remember in the 2023 session, the school resource officers. You guys all remember this, where they effectively kicked them out of our schools. They made a number of changes to the use of force statute so that police officers couldn't do what was necessary to protect themselves and protect kids in the event of an issue arising at a school. And so a lot of police forces were forced to pull their police officers out of their rooms, out of their schools, and the result was that Democrats got a ton of blowback. Occasionally, Democrats couch a lot of their language in language around justice and fairness and all that, but occasionally the mask falls and they do something extraordinarily crazy like that, like kicking police officers out of our schools. And so they got a ton of blowback. Governor Wallace tiptoed up to the line of being courageous and forcing a special session to make a change, but as usual, he backed off and waited until the session. And now they did make a change to it that most folks in law enforcement are comfortable with, and now at least a lot of police officers are back in our schools, which is a good result. A few other things. Another effort that's out there may or may not happen this session, but they'll certainly return to it if it doesn't pass. A full-time legislature. They want Minnesota to have a full-time legislature, which if you look back last year, in a few months they went a long ways to destroying our state. And just think what they could do. They had 12 months of the year to destroy our state, right? So under our state constitution, the days during which they can have legislative session and how many days of the year they can have a session are limited. And so this would be an amendment to the state constitution to allow that. And then they tried to shoehorn some other things in there as well. It's a terrible idea. It would be, some other states, like I believe California have it. It's an awful thing to have a legislature in session full time. Let them go back, be citizens, be teachers, be police officers, do other work. Maybe they'll, that certainly helps to ground some folks anyway. It's also really terrible for legislators in outstate who have to, then trek in and so forth. It's convenient if you're living in Minneapolis to jet to the Capitol all the time. But terrible idea there. Another thing, they want to spend $100 million. Which, by their terms, after spending a $17.8 billion surplus last year, it doesn't seem like that much, but they want to spend $100 million on a universal basic income. Well, it's actually a basic income. It's not universal, but basically it's another welfare program. Again and again throughout our state, we see how our legislators are doing things to disincentivize actually working for a living, right? To give away tons and tons of free money to make it less and less incentivized for people to actually work. So they want to do that. It looks like that'll die. Senator Koran, is that right? Will that die?
I think it will die.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. The legislature isn't passing that.
The Democrats in the legislature, yes. Yeah. Folks like Senator Koran are fighting hard. Against that. That's right. They also want another income tax tier. They continue want to tax us, and they want to have another upper income tier to extract even more money from our economy. Right now, we have already the most progressive tax system in the country. We have the highest corporate tax rates. We have some of the highest individual rates in the country. And Democrats still aren't happy with that. They want to extract even more taxes. So that's a few things that are happening in the legislature. You may have also seen, some fascinating things happening with a certain Democrat senator up in Detroit Lakes. And we will see what's happening there. But that is stalled at least a lot of activity in the Senate for now. And I think there's some more news this evening on that may stall them further. So so that's a few things that are happening in the legislature. Just want to give you an update on some of that stuff. And then I wanted to tell you a little bit about one thing we do as an organization is we're going to be spending resources, doing work to elect a Republican House in 2024. So recall that in 2024, the state Senate is not up for re-election. It's only the Minnesota House that's up for election. And it's critically important we win that to put the brakes on the craziness in our state. That's our opportunity to stop the last couple of years of the Walz administration from ramming through even more crazy legislation. So we've got to win that. We have to net 4 seats in order to win it. We could tie it with 3 seats. A lot of good candidates out there. I saw Alex here running against Matt Norris and Blaine. It's a very winnable seat, and he's somebody we should support. Up on the Iron Range, there's a candidate named Cal Warwas running against a guy named Dave Lislagard. Cal is another great candidate. Going down south in Winona, there's a guy named Aaron Rapinski. This is a seat that's been in Democrat hands for about 40 years, and there's a real opportunity to win that down there. There's another seat in Shakopee, a guy named Brad Tackey. As a Democrat for election, we can win that. In St. Cloud, a guy named Dan Molgamont. So what I would encourage folks to do is look around, find a House candidate that you like, maybe he's in your area or otherwise, and latch on to them and support them. Because this is an incredibly important moment for us. The Democrats showed what they are willing to do in a non-election year when they have the trifecta of control, the Democrat, the Senate, and the governorship. And so we have to win the Minnesota House in 2024 to put the brakes on the craziness. And so I'd encourage you all to go out and work for a House candidate and support them. With that, I know Mary thought it'd be worthwhile to spend a little bit of time just opening up for some questions on stuff. But just one thing, and so having to take some questions, one thing I'll just say is, and I alluded to this earlier, is don't get discouraged. You know, it's easy to get discouraged. You know, obviously 2022 was a tough election result, and I certainly felt that as acutely as anybody. But Minnesota is teetering on the edge of being a purple state, a state that where Republicans win, and we have to do that. We can turn our state around, and we have to continue fighting so that we can do that. So, with that.
Yeah, what works best is if you just come on up here and line up, and then you can use this microphone and everybody can hear you. So, I know what you all want to ask them too. What are you going to do in 2 years?
My 8-year-old daughter was telling people at her school for quite a while that I was running for president this year. So,
there's an idea.
I am in a position to roll that out. But we'll see. Anybody who's been a candidate will tell you it is an incredibly grueling thing to run a race, and it's not to seek pity or anything, but particularly on your family, it's just really grueling, and the spouses, sometimes feel most acutely, if you're the candidate, you're kind of up there taking the slings and arrows, you can take it. The spouses, take it in a particular way, and so. Ultimately, whether I run for Attorney General again or something else, it'll just depend on whether or not we can get there as a family. My wife Molly and I, when we got into, as I alluded to earlier, a lot of ways didn't make any sense for us as a family to step forward in 2022, but we prayed on it and we just felt called to step forward. And doing a race again would require us to have that internal conviction again to do that. And so we'll see. And who knows? Maybe you'll see an announcement from my 8-year-old. At some point.
Well, you did a fabulous job. We were very proud of the work that you did. You ended up just doing a terrific job.
I will tell you, a few years ago, I did not expect to be on the front page of the New York Times about a race I was a part of, but certainly proud of what we accomplished. We did something. I think we showed people that Minnesota isn't some deep blue state. That you can win in Minnesota, 49.6% of the vote isn't too bad. So.
I don't see anybody lined up for questions, but let me tell you what we're doing in Senate District 32. We are really trying to reach out to the business owners in the area and get them to start coming. And so we've invited Jim to our BPOU meeting on May 14th. And we're specifically reaching out to those Blaine business owners. So I see it as a win-win.
Yeah.
We've got to get the business community involved. They've got a huge stake in this. They have to know who to vote for, legislatively, to support them. A lot of times they don't know, believe it or not. And I know I talked to some people and they said, if you could just send us an email with who to vote for and why, they said we'd send that info out. That could make a huge difference in flipping a House race. So.
Unfortunately, a lot of the businesses that are engaged are some of these hyper woke ones. You see out there the publicly traded companies that whether you saw with the Budweiser stuff, the Target stuff, whatever. And there's a lot of businesses out there that just they just want to have policies that allow the economy to grow and allow them to grow jobs and so forth, and so forth. And we're trying to give a voice to them and harness their voice to them. So.
Well, here's Glyde.
Yes, sir.
The thing I'd like to hear you talk to is how we get back at least a portion of the young female crowd that supported the abortion legislation in 2022. And there's 2 or 3 areas that I can think of that might work. One of them is women's athletics and the effort now to allow anyone who happens to think that he is a woman compete as a woman. That one has got to go. And that one, it seems to me, has the potential of literally destroying women's athletics. The The other one is similar. And that is, my understanding is that the teacher certification requirements for certification as a primary or secondary school teacher in Minnesota as of June of 2025 will include the requirement that the candidate assent to, agree to support, and actively teach critical race theory, DEI, and transgenderism, and that they agree to keep that information, keep transgender information of a student from the student's parents. So so really are tackling a parent responsibility and a parent authority. What's the status on that, and how can we bring those issues to bear on the 2024 election?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, the question of, and some, I was welcome thoughts from other folks who are in elections in the room here too. But the challenge with women broadly, for those of us on the Republican side, or those of us who are pro-life, is real. I mean, particularly college-educated women. Republicans are getting crushed right now with college-educated women out there. Do a little bit better with non-college-educated women, but I think broadly on a lot of these issues, I think folks on our side need to speak with a certain tone. I think it's sometimes we talk a lot about what we're against and things like that, and I think broadly I think we should talk more about what we're for. We're for about healthy families. We're for families thriving. We're for people having opportunities to grow and succeed and so forth. And I think it's important for us as we think about engaging that issue or otherwise, speak with a tone that folks who maybe aren't conservative, don't know if they're pro-life or not, that they hear that you understand them, hear that you understand where they're coming from, and so forth. And I think there's some things, if you start talking so too harshly and things like that around particularly that issue and some others, then it turns off some people that might be our voters. And so I think that's really important. I think generally, then we got to should be hammering some of these issues that that you just see that are on the one hand really important for our country, and then two, you see broad majorities opposing. Things like the 9 million folks who have come across our borders since Joe Biden's been president. Things like the incredible inflation that's crushing family budgets, and that things like the lack of our educational standards, where only 50% of our kids are proficient in math and reading. I mean, that is outrageous. 50% of the kids are proficient in math and reading. I mean, that is a statistic that that should keep anybody in public office awake at night. For the implications for our state around that, and certainly women and voters generally care a lot about that. So I think you got to speak to the issues that folks care about, and I think that will go a long way with men, women, and folks in the state.
Can I comment quickly?
Yeah.
So again, my name is Lisa Schneegans, and I'm with Buzz 360. Every week, or every month, once a month, we have speakers on topics, and we had a really good one last month, Melanie Sturms, that talked very specifically on how Republicans should message around the topic of abortion. Go to our website, go to buzz360.co/learnfromthewinners, and there's a recording of an hour seminar of Melanie talking about just this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Dan with Restore Minnesota.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Dan.
I want to congratulate you on a supreme effort in 22. I personally believe you won. Your opponent was reading the live results of the poll pads through the day, as we all know. My question, and you kind of just went around it here a little bit with the previous gentleman, and that is for the Minnesota GOP, candidate, and those of us who are supporting candidates, what are the one or two winning messages, and what may be the one losing message that we don't quite know how to handle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I alluded to it earlier, the immigration issue is so massive. I mean, we are now, by the end of Joe Biden's presidency, we will have folks in our country illegally coming in just during Joe Biden's presidency equal to the size of 2 Minnesotas. I mean, that's the reality, 11 million or so. And people are fed up about that. You look at the polling there, and they're understandably fed up about it, right? I mean, we should have a border. Nations require borders. It's an immense burden on our country. It's wrong when it comes to attracting people to make hazardous journeys. Immense amount of fentanyl, other drugs pouring across our border. And that federally is obviously a massive issue. We need federal action. But obviously at the state level as well, we're doing all these things to attract people to the state, to incentivize illegal immigration, whether it be free college, free health insurance, and so forth. And we got to continue to hammer that message going forward. I'll also say, economic issues, inflation, taxes, all that. People are living such different lives than they were 4 years ago under President Trump, than they were in the past when we had a good economy without rampant inflation and so forth. And then obviously, more people can't buy a house. If you're a medium income person, you can't buy a house. People are really feeling that really acutely. So I think hammering those messages. And I continue to think, I ran my Attorney General's race and substantially over the public safety issue. And that continues to be a massively important issue in our state. There's all these falsehoods out there about how crime is supposedly so much better. Well, it's not. It's not. Crime is still 50% higher in Minneapolis and St. Paul and statewide than it was prior to 2020. That's a fact. And I wrote an op-ed on that to that effect a few weeks back. And the DFL kind of lost their mind and wrote some stuff back that didn't make any sense. The fact is, crime is dramatically higher. The people in this room feel it. The average person feels it. And we continue to have a governor, a legislature, and others, folks in Washington, who are ignoring it or excusing criminality. We've got people like Mary Moriarty in Hennepin County who make a point of prosecuting police officers and excusing violent criminals. And so we should continue hammering that message as well. Senator Koran, looks like you got some ideas as well.
Yeah. So Jim's right. In 2020, 2022, crime, economy, and education were top 3. Now you can add immigration. I would agree with you. That's top 4. But here's the bad news. What are they running on?
Abortion.
Yes. And so they're running on abortion, and they decided that's it, right? That's all they have. So, and I don't know if I mentioned last time, Mary, but when we're here, we have to come up with a message. Lisa talked about how to message that well. We cannot go into this session or this election hoping candidates can figure out how to do that well, because they're going to be bludgeoned with that $1 million abortion gavel or mallet. And so what we're working on, and anybody going to attend the state convention, you're going to be provided an opportunity to look at looking at our party platform. There are challenges that we hinder ourselves all the time, and we allow the Democrats fuel to bludgeon us. And so as it relates to being the abortion side of it, the abortion piece is the easy thing to talk about, right? Or it's at least the final. I don't mean easy to talk about. But what it isn't is just about abortion. It's about our protection of our children's rights with what they did in their PRO Act, which is actually guaranteeing, if anybody's read that bill, it's a paragraph. And what it says is it basically guarantees reproductive rights. That's it. And so every single other bill that you'll see around anything we do is very prescriptive of what's not allowed, because that would then be deemed criminal. In this, by the mere fact that nothing is stated or disallowed, means everything is permitted to our children and otherwise. But what we're working on today, and we're going to work really hard, we cannot go in without a message that we can get behind. We need to provide a message from the Republican Party, the House and the Senate, we're working on it today, to say, hey, Minnesota, we're going to make you a promise. We understand where you're at on abortion. We do. We heard you. We got If everybody understands, what do they want? What did the Democrats run that they said they were looking to preserve? The right to abortion. All pro-choice people want the right to abortion, want it preserved, right? Rare, safe, and available. Goes back to the Clinton years. That's what they wanted. It's not what they got. And so we have to look at it and say, yep, we understand it. By the way, does anybody know how abortion, or what abortion and how late it is protected in Minnesota based on our Supreme Court? Second trimester. No. The state law they passed makes it unlimited. So we're going to have to go out there and figure out then how do we win that political power back and actually save lives. And so we're working on a message that we make a promise to Minnesota, show what we're committing to, focus and investment on all things that matter about life, right? Pregnancy resource centers, abortion, or not abortion, but adoption services. How do we promote and foster those things? Education. And what we have to do is we have to become the party of family, children, and the restoration of parental rights. We do that well. Every one of our candidates can talk about it and say, yep, we heard you. We're never acquiesced about a value and cherishing all life. We are not. But we have to understand the political reality we operate in and to be able to get our candidates into that conversation more effectively. That, yep, we understand, we heard you. By the way, it's already protected right which you fought for, but we know you didn't agree to this. This is crazy policy. The unlimited pro-choice people believe that, or 90% of them, are dead set against the removal of protection of life of a baby born alive. By the way, which has been removed. There's no protection for a baby born alive in Minnesota, period.
That's right.
So we have to do that. We have to do that to empower each one of our candidates. We are working on the Senate, believe me, I'm leading it. And we're going to make sure the House and everybody understands. If we do that, we'll set forth the legislative agenda and kick off the election season, truly empowering our people to address it head on. You can't sit back and hope that, oh, we're just not going to talk about it or be bludgeoned and hope it goes away. It's the only thing they have. We rip that out of their hands, then everything Jim talked about. They get nothing else. Literally nothing else. It's finally starting to touch people, hopefully enough. But we've got to provide our candidates with the fuel and the opportunity and the safety to be able to say, this is what we're for. And we know you agree with us. And so reach across that aisle, even to those we may disagree vehemently with, to understand the political reality we operate in today. We can save lives and we can win elections. So that's what I wanted to add to it. So thanks.
Thanks, Al.
Chrisma from Senate District 39.
Well, you covered it. You said what I was. I just wanted to thank you for pointing out what you said about bringing people together and being able to speak in a way that's not offensive or defensive, but rather inclusive. And I think our speech is really important. Conscious speech it just cuts through the aisles, it cuts through the barriers. We all pretty much want the same things, but unfortunately, I don't know what's going on here. All right, but so we need to incorporate conscious speech into our conversations with one another. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I think there's a lot of Minnesotans that aren't voting. There's a lot of Republicans that aren't voting. And I think that there's more people that agree with us than disagree with us and are not voting. So there's reality to the silent majority. And if we can encourage our neighbors and actually be neighborly and get to know one another in our areas, that's going to be huge. And if we incorporate conscious speaking and breaking down the divides, I think that would do it.
Somebody I think does it pretty well for a blue state. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you. Who does that pretty well for a blue state? Yeah, you're around. Plus, is Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. I think he does a really good job of that. It's a tough thing to win in the blue state, and it's not like he's like some softy out there. He's aggressive, holding folks accountable and things like that. But he does it with a tone that can get down on grounds, keep moderates and otherwise. The lady that just spoke to you as well mentioned votes being left on the table. There's absolutely a lot of Republicans who aren't voting, particularly in off-year elections. like 2022, 2026, we've got to work on Republican turnout. We had historic margins in my race. The greatest margins of any candidate, Republican candidate in decades in Greater Minnesota. But there was turnout problems in 2022 in some of these areas. And when a race is decided by 0.7% of the vote, that can be decisive. And so my long-term view on Minnesota is that we're on our way to becoming a purple state because our rural areas are going to continue getting redder and redder. The suburbs are going to come back eventually. It makes no sense that places like Plymouth, Minnesota are voting for Democrats by 15 points. And then after that, it's came by the door that Minnesota can be a state that has sane leadership again, that has sane policies, that attract people, that attract opportunity in our state. So.
Well, this is Mike, and he's been a big volunteer in Mascot, Minnesota.
Yeah.
No, hold your mouth.
Everything that's happening in the United States and everything that's happening in Europe, from CRT in the schools and DEI, from the transgender and the pronoun, the strike against the First Amendment, everything that's happening is communism. Okay? And so you guys are the mechanics, Mark, you, Pat, anybody else here in politics, the engine is turning into communism. So my question is, and I kind of get irritated, why don't you just refer to the DFL as communism? In everything. Bold and capital, and that's what it is. Because all the people coming over the border, you change the country, our country will never be the same because of that. That's how Ali beat Frazier. He talked him out of the title before they got in the ring.
Yeah.
And the people, they don't like communism. They understand we spent trillions. But just refer to them as communism, bold, bigger font,
Yeah.
I ain't kidding you. It just makes me sick because all these things are just little or not little, but big details that you guys are working on. And you're doing a good job. But the fact is, people still think it's the DFL like Hubert Humphrey.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, actually. That's what I was talking about. This isn't your grandfather's Democrat Party anymore. I mean, Minneapolis is run by openly, as a majority of people aligned with the Democrat Socialists of America. And I mean, this is, it's a fundamentally different party, run by folks like that, folks like Ilhan Omar, folks like Keith Ellison, folks like Peggy Flanagan. It is it's the DFL that is militant leftist and that doesn't believe in the animated principles of America, and we do have to hold them accountable for that. And I certainly was pretty aggressive in my race against Ellison on that and many other points. And I think all Republican candidates have to be very clear about that. But
This is Dan from Ramsey City Council.
Hello, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've noticed locally is that the state's wanting to take more and more rights away from the cities and take them for themselves. The recent marijuana legislation, we're now told that we have to allow these 2 dispensaries, we have to allow people to grow marijuana in our city, we have to let people sell it. We really have no control over stopping that. This year they tried to push us to say zoning is no longer at the city level. The state can decide where apartment complexes would go, if they're an extra farm or businesses can go here, and they would decide all that. So being that most people, have a higher probability to have input in at the local level, the local candidates, how do you recommend cities fight back, and how do you recommend the people here to push back and talk to their local council members and stuff to make a difference at the state level?
yeah, I think you look at a lot of things. There's strength in numbers, and like the cities got together and organized in opposition to that legislation you mentioned around zoning, and that made the difference. The legislature could kill it. And broadly, as you talk about engaging, in politics generally, there's strength in numbers, and so I think working together, getting coalitions built with sometimes with people in various different perspectives, things along those lines, makes the difference. And staying engaged, talking to friends, talking to family, being active in your local BPOU, being active to just go and volunteer for a candidate. when you're a candidate, it's hard. It's hard because a lot of times you've run races before as a city council member. It's hard, getting volunteers, getting bodies to do the work necessary, and it's the Facebook posts and things like that, can be valuable, but sometimes you just need people to pound in signs and things like that. And so being out there working, doing the hard work of electing people, shaping policy, things like that is really key. Well, thank you guys. Great to be with you again. It's been over a year, but it's great to be back with you. I remember I was in law school when the Tea Party movement kicked off, and I remember going to some of the first rallies actually in Boston, it's great to be here again. I'll be hanging out here, happy to talk with anybody. But keep fighting. Don't get discouraged. Don't lose faith. Keep fighting. We can win in Minnesota. We have to win in Minnesota, and we'll get it done. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for being here. We'll have you back. All right, we're going to shift over to Donna Unfiltered. Donna Thibodeau has got her monthly update. Say hi to Donna. You all know Donna. You love her.
Hi, everybody. Well, we're out there. Donna Unfiltered, and today's episode is called Trump's Trials and More. This past month, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what I can do as a single citizen. And I don't mean I'm married, I mean one person. Anyway, I'm going to start tonight going from the top to the bottom, from the biggest group, the Republican National Committee, and then down to the National Tea Party Patriots, and then down to local. The National Republican Party has many committees that are active now, but the two that are really active are the Election Integrity Committee that has 5 subcommittees and a Protect the Vote Committee. And you can get on their website and you can sign up from anywhere in the United States, because we of course have Republicans all over the United States. And so that can be a thing that you can think about besides the state. The Tea Party Patriots National Organization also has a lot of petitions that you can sign and get involved with volunteering there too. There are several petitions you can sign and email. That's the easiest way to get your voice heard on a national level. You can write letters, but that takes a lot of time. And you can call, but you may have to leave a message because they have limited staff. And my challenge to you, and by the way, it's pretty much all on that yellow sheet, is the easiest and most effective way to influence people in our area. The next is Trump's trials. Trump has 2 or 3 of his 4 lawsuits active that I know about, but I specifically know about 2 of them. And one is the documents case, which is currently paused because it's being heard by the U.S. Supreme Court, and we expect a decision about June. The hush money lawsuit is really a stupid one. It was caused by a simple bookkeeping error, and it was blown up by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg into 34 felony charges. And this one really bothers me because even though it's a dumb lawsuit, if Donald Trump goes to prison, he's a sitting duck, and his life is in danger. Trump could be murdered in prison, and you say, well, what about the Secret Service? Well, I read another article with, quote, New York Rep. Dem. Benny Thompson proposes a bill to strip Trump of his Secret Service protection if convicted and sentenced to jail. And Judge Merchant, or how do you pronounce his name, is more than willing to do that. So I'd like you to pray for the jury to find Trump innocent of all 34 felony charges. other issues. I didn't know this before, but when Trump was president, he had rats working behind his back and against him from the Republican Party. This, by the way, is a copy of the Benny, whatever his last name is, who wants to take his civil service protection away. And this is what I'm talking about. This lawyer, a former White House lawyer, confirms that he, behind Trump's back, organized threats of mass resignations to successfully thwart Trump from appointing an acting attorney other than Bill Barr, who would actually seriously investigate the 2020 election. Well, this guy was successful in scaring the heck out of the rest of the people there, and so no lawsuits were brought, no investigations prior to the transition to Biden. Okay. I'm going to read you quickly. It's on your yellow sheet. All of the cases, all of the articles that I'm referring to. Report. January 6th committee Democrats say they fear Trump will put them in jail. Why do they fear that? Okay. Report. Transcriptions confirm January 6th committee lied about Trump attacking the Secret Service. 3. Jim Jordan, January 6th committee has altered evidence and lied to the American people about it. 4. January 6th committee destroyed records, videos, Trump's rights were violated. And the juiciest of all of these articles that I read, House may refer J6 committee members for prosecution. Right on, boy. But wait, there's a 6th title. Anti-Biden witness Tony Bobulinski sues Fox News Jessica Tarloff for defamation. Well, Fox News is standing with liberal Democrat Jessica, unlike what they did not do for Republican conservative Tucker Carlson. Okay? So, now, I have a challenge for you. And that is, I have 15 of these pins, like this one. And I want to give them out to 15 courageous Republicans to agree to wear them. I'll give them out to you free. But I want you to agree to wear them every day when you're running around out and about. On a sweater or on a jacket, not like that one because you could wreck it with that, but so people can see it. And I have had really good reception with this. Maria made me promise that I would wear this every day until the election, and I have kept that promise. And I want to ask you to do it too. You wear it, and if somebody comes up to you, and I get 100% good response from it. They'll say, I agree with you, or I like your button, or something like that, or keep it up. But if you happen to get a negative person, just ask them, well, are you better off today than you were during Trump's presidency? And unless they were living under a rock, they have to say, no, I'm not. So, with that, I want to end that, and Chuck will hand out these to 15 people, free. However, there is a guy here who is selling them for $1.25.
$2.
Everything about our own approach. She does this all on her own. She researches, she puts those topics together. She does this all on her own. And so thank you so much, Donna and Chuck. Chuck, you can wait until the end if you want. People can walk up to Chuck and get the buttons. So, Chuck, yeah. You can wait till the end. That's all right. All right, I want to just update you on some things coming up. We've got a couple more speakers with some interesting information. You know, I mentioned that Jim Schultz will be speaking at the Senate District 32 BPO meeting on May 14th, so you can come see him again. How many of you are State Central delegates? You going to State Central on the 16th? Okay, and we will be electing, again, a new national committee man and a new national committee woman. Make sure you look into these candidates and know anybody can give a good speech. I tell this to everybody. You need to look into, you know, their backgrounds, look into who they are, talk to people that have worked with them. And then state convention is May 17th and 18th. Who's the state convention delegate? Great, okay. And there we are going to endorse a United States Senate candidate to run against Amy Klobuchar. Now, I don't know how many candidates we've got, to be honest with you. There could be 4, there could be 10, I don't know. I've got how many are there?
There's 2 right now.
Well, that are going, are you sure? No, there's more than that. There's 10 names, but I don't know who has contacted the party at this point and who's going on. So I don't know how many, but again, the top 2 right now that seem to be talked about a lot is Joe Fraser and Royce White. Talk to people who know them, who have worked with them, look into their backgrounds and so on. Anybody can give a good speech. Okay? All right. Right? That's right. We've got to know who we're voting for.
Ask them if they're pro-Trump.
Well, you can ask them if they're pro-Trump. You can ask them a lot of things. Yeah, you've got to think about what are these people doing with our vote, and what are they going to do out there, you know, in D.C. How are they going to represent us? Are they going to hurt the party? There's a lot of things. Do they have money? Do they have a campaign put together? There's a lot to this. So, yeah, you've got So, anybody can make a good speech. Okay. So, June 6th, we are going to be meeting 1 hour earlier. You know, during June and August, we start at 5 o'clock social and 6 o'clock meeting time. We do that to help the kitchens here. As they get busy outside on the patio, they get a lot of people inside, and it's just a lot of work for them. So we're shifting to those summer hours, so just read your emails, and you'll see that we're going to have social from 5 to 6 beginning in June. In June, we've got an in-depth discussion on the legislative session, and we have 10 legislators coming to speak with you. Senator Koran cannot make it. You're in Brainerd, aren't you? You're at the Cass County with Lucero and Hudson, because I would have had them, you know, come. But we've got other really, really good. We have Representative Nolan West from Blaine. We have Shane Mecklen from Becker. We've got Elian Engel from over in the Hugo area. Representative Danny Nadeau of 34A. He represents this area. We have Representative Harry Niska up at 31A. Senator Glenn Gruenhagen, Senator Jim Abler, Senator Andrew Matthews, and Senator Michael Pruitt. So most of them will make it that night. Also speaking will be the endorsed CD2 candidate, Taylor Rahm. That was an exciting convention, so he will be here, and also Maylor Zhang from CD4. So, Lionel, did you want to say a quick word? You've got flyers here on Maylor.
Yes,
he doesn't need a microphone. So.
Do I need it?
No.
All right. Maylor Zhang, this is her second go-around. She did very well last time. She's running against Betty McCollum, who's already been in there 12 terms. We don't need a Democrat in District 4 for 24 years. May did better against Betty last time around than any other Republican has. She needs money. Amazing. They all need money. Betty's got a war chest that you couldn't even measure. So there are flyers. I didn't get as many as I wanted. Scan the QR code on there. It'll take you right to her website, which is running through swipe red. Anyway, and this is a woman whose parents are immigrants and came from refugee camp over in Laos. She knows what it's like to be in a free society, and there isn't anybody, like Dalia said, who is as strong about America and not disrespecting America as somebody who has come from somewhere else. This lady deserves your support. I live in Bloomington. She isn't in my district. But this is an absolutely great candidate. There'll be flyers up there on the round table. I wish I had more of them, but you can also go to her website, May4MN.com. She is a good candidate. She deserves all of our support, whether you live in her district or not. If you want to get Minnesota back red, I don't care where you live. Support all of them. Thank you.
That's a great point. All these congressional district candidates need your money, they need your time, whatever you can do. Can you write a letter to the editor? You know, can you stuff envelopes for them? Can you donate $10 a month? It all adds up. It really does. Yes, Keith.
Clarification on the meetings. There's no meeting in July, and then August starts at 5?
That's right. Yeah, we always take July off. The first Thursday is always during the week of the 4th of July, and we've always said we'd rather have everybody celebrating their love of the country. And yeah, so we'll meet in June and then August. Yes?
In June, we meet at 6?
You will. We start the meeting at 6.
Right.
You can come at 5 and order and network and socialize. We just move everything up 1 hour earlier. Pardon? Yeah, we do that in June and we'll do it in August.
Oh, not July.
No, we don't meet in July. Yeah, that's great. The other person that we're going to have come speak next month, she was almost going to be able here tonight, is it Marisa Simonetti? Yeah, Mike is going to talk to that, but she is running for Hennepin County Commissioner against Mary Moriarty's wife. No,
she's not.
She lost?
All right.
No, she's not. Mary Moriarty's friend did not make it through the primaries. She came in 4th. We had a primary Tuesday, and in a huge upset, Marisa Simonetti came in a strong second. She beat 2 DFL hacks. Place was our county attorney's close friend. She got a whole 900 votes. She only spent $10,000. Third place came a guy named Patrick Gage. She only spent $71,000. Came in third, got 900. First place came Heather, state rep from Edina. She only spent like $50,000. Marissa spent under 500 and came in second, getting 31%. Huge upset.
Good candidate.
Woo! Now, we're moving on to the general in 12 days. She's going to need money because, she's going to need more than 500 to win this race. So if anyone would like to contribute, I'll take the checks, or I'm sure on the website. But this would be a huge upset if she got elected Hennepin County Commissioner. I mean, I'll be honest. Wednesday, I had the day off to take down the lawn signs. Since we came in second, I'm not taking any down. In fact, we're putting up 100 more. So, if anyone here lives in the district, please tell me and we'll get a lawn sign up. But you can contribute. Even if you don't live in the district, we'll take your money. So, I see a great feeling for Republicans this year. We're going to win everything. We're going to win the 5th district back. We're going to win the 3rd. I don't want to be like Howard Dean started screaming right now. However, so thank you. We need all your help, and let's go on. We'll win in 12 days.
So hopefully she'll be here in June too. So June 6th, we'll see you at 5 o'clock. You can come and order at that time. So all those legislators, all those people running for office, it'll be a good meeting. So anyone else have anything else you'd like to add? Thank you all for being here. Drive safe. We'll see you June 6th.